Have you ever just sat down after a long day, hoping to finally relax, but your mind refuses to slow down? Maybe you're sitting on the couch, phone and hand TV on in the background, but inside, it's still noisy. You think about tomorrow's deadlines. You replay something awkward you said 3 days ago. You wonder if you're falling behind in life. If any of that sounds familiar, let me say this: you're not alone. In fact, you're part of a quiet but growing community of people. Who feel like the world keeps spinning faster while their inner peace grows thinner. Stress, anxiety, mental exhaustion, it's everywhere. We live in a culture that pushes us to constantly do more, be more, and stay connected. But the irony is, while we've become more connected to technology and outer stimulation, we've grown more disconnected from ourselves. That calm center, the one that's supposed to ground us, feels distant, and the harder we try to fix things outside our job, our schedule, our relationships, the more tangled our insides become. So, let me ask you a question. What if stress isn't just about what's happening to you, but how your mind is reacting to it? What if the way to peace isn't by controlling everything around you, but by gently watching what's happening within you? That's what Buddhism teaches. And no, I'm not talking about shaving your head, sitting cross-legged in a monastery, or chanting ancient verses. I'm talking about simple, practical wisdom that has helped millions find clarity, stillness, and a renewed sense of self in the middle of modern chaos. In this video, we're going to explore how Buddhist teachings can help you understand why you're always stressed, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. We'll talk about the way your mind works, how thoughts gain power, and how to create space between your awareness and your emotions. You'll learn simple ways to respond to stress, not just react to it. And you'll see that a calmer life isn't something far away. It begins with a shift in how you relate to your own thoughts. Let's begin with something surprisingly simple: the idea that your thoughts are not facts. You see, we tend to believe everything our mind tells us. If your mind says, "I'm not good enough," you might believe it. If it says, "This will never work," you might stop trying. But here's a truth that can change your life. Your mind is constantly narrating, judging, predicting, but it doesn't always tell the truth. In Buddhism, this voice is often called the monkey mind because it jumps from one branch of thought to another, chattering away, never settling. The problem isn't that we have a monkey mind. That's just human. The problem begins when we mistake the monkey for the master. Imagine this: your mind is like a room. Thoughts are visitors. Some are friendly, some are critical, some are anxious, some are tired. But here's the thing: you're not the visitor. You're the room. You're the space that can hold all of it without being taken over. That shift in perspective is what Buddhism calls mindfulness. It's the gentle, non-judging awareness of what's happening inside you without becoming it. So when a stressful thought comes up, like "I'm behind" or "this will be a disaster," mindfulness allows you to notice that thought without obeying it. You simply observe, a thought is here, and let it pass, the same way you'd watch a cloud float across the sky. doesn't mean you ignore your responsibilities. It means you stop letting every mental cloud turn into a storm. Now I know what you might be thinking. That sounds nice in theory, but how do I actually do that in real life? Let me introduce you to a small practice. It's so simple. You can do it anywhere, anytime. It's called the sacred pause. And I promise it's more powerful than it sounds. The next time you feel overwhelmed, maybe someone says something rude, maybe you're stuck in traffic, maybe your to-do list is spiraling. Just pause. Don't react right away. Take one breath. Feel the air entering your body. And in that breath, ask yourself quietly, what's really happening inside me right now? That question doesn't require an answer. It simply invites awareness. You might notice tension in your shoulders. You might feel anger, fear, sadness. You might realize, I feel like I'm failing, or I'm scared. I'm disappointing someone. Whatever it is, just breathe and notice. This tiny pause breaks the automatic pattern. It gives your wiser self a chance to step in. That's what mindfulness does. It returns the power to you. Let me share a little story. There's a woman named Maya, a nurse in her early 40s, who told me that for years, she lived in a constant state of stress. She said it felt like she was always on alert, as if the next crisis was around the corner. At work, she was a caregiver. At home, she was a mom and a fixer. She had no space to just be. Then one day, during her lunch break, she found herself sitting in her car, breathing heavily, tears streaming down her face, not from anything specific, just the weight of it all. And in that moment, she remembered something she'd read. You are not your thoughts. So she closed her eyes. She took one breath, then another. And for the first time in a long time, she just watched. She didn't try to fix or judge anything. She just sat with herself. And in that moment, she said it felt like someone inside her had finally been heard. That's the beginning of peace. You don't need to wait until your next vacation to feel calm. You don't need to change your job, your family, or your past. You just need to start observing with kindness what your mind is doing. Because when you're no longer lost in your mind, you can finally start living from your heart. And now that we've opened this door, let's continue deeper. In the next part, we'll explore how attachment to control and certainty quietly fuels your daily stress, and how letting go can set you free in ways you never imagined. Let's take a moment and really think about something. When was the last time you felt completely at ease, not just on the outside, but deep inside your chest, in your breath, in your bones? For most people, it's been a while. And for many, that sense of peace feels like a memory from childhood, when life was simpler, slower, and we weren't constantly measuring ourselves against the ticking clock or the expectations of the world. Now here's a quiet truth that many people never consider. The stress we feel today often isn't caused by what's happening, but by our resistance to what's happening. In Buddhist teaching, one of the deepest sources of suffering is attachment, not just to people or possessions, but to ideas, outcomes, and control. We want things to go a certain way. We want people to behave a certain way. We want the future to unfold according to our plan. And when it doesn't, which is often, we feel tension, frustration, fear. You see, it's not the traffic that causes the stress. It's the thought, I shouldn't be stuck here. It's not the email from your boss. It's the thought, I can't mess this up. It's not even the news. It's the idea. The world shouldn't be this way. Buddhism doesn't say we should accept everything passively, but it invites us to notice when our mind is clinging to how things should be instead of being open to what is. Let me give you an image. Imagine holding a rope with both hands, and suddenly someone starts pulling hard on the other end. The tighter you hold, the more your hands burn. But the moment you loosen your grip, the pain begins to ease. That's what happens when we let go. Not of care, not of effort, but of the illusion of total control. Letting go is not giving up. It's giving yourself room to breathe. Now, how do we practice that? How do we actually loosen our grip in daily life? One powerful way is through what Buddhists call non-attachment to outcomes. Let's say you're working on a project or trying to improve a relationship. You do your best. You show up fully, but then you remind yourself, I can control my input, not the result. This mindset frees you from being crushed when things don't go as planned. It allows you to care deeply without being consumed. There's a Buddhist phrase that says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. What it means is this peace doesn't come from escaping the duties of life, it comes from how you relate to them. If you do your work with mindfulness presence and a light heart, even simple tasks become a form of meditation. But if your mind is racing with fear judgment, or the urge to hurry, even resting can feel like a chore, here's something you can try right now. Even as you're watching this video, bring attention to your hands. Just notice, are they clenched? Resting, cold, warm. You don't need to fix or change anything. Just pay attention. This simple act of noticing without judgment begins to reconnect you with your body, with this moment. And the more you return to the body, the more you anchor yourself in the now. You may have heard the term presence used a lot, but what does it actually mean? In Buddhist understanding, presence is the space between the noise of your mind. It's not something you have to create, it's already there, beneath the thoughts. Presence is like the sky behind the clouds. It's always available, but often overlooked. To touch that presence, here's another practice, and it might sound almost too simple to be useful walking without purpose. Go outside. Leave your phone behind. Don't aim for a destination. Just walk. Let your feet move slowly. Listen to the sound of your steps. Notice the leaves, the breeze, the color of the sky. If your mind wanders, and it will just bring it back to the rhythm of walking. You'll find that after a few minutes, your inner storm begins to settle. You're not doing anything extraordinary, but you're reclaiming your attention from the noise. That attention is your greatest power. And most of us give it away too easily to screens, to worry, to past regrets and imagined futures. Let me share the story of Daniel, a 29-year-old man who came to a meditation center in California after struggling with burnout at his tech job. On the outside, he had everything: a good salary, a great apartment, recognition. But inside, he felt constantly drained. He said, "I wake up already tired. I lie in bed with my head buzzing. I'm never really off." And then one evening, he attended a silent meditation for beginners. Just 30 minutes, guided gently to observe his breath. He later said it felt like meeting himself for the first time in years. It wasn't magic. It was the power of non-doing. Stress often thrives on over-effort. We try too hard to fix, to prove, to earn rest. But Buddhism teaches peace is your natural state. It's what remains when the noise falls away. That's why the path forward isn't about adding more. It's about subtracting the noise. It's about gently loosening your grip on perfection judgment and the need to be anywhere other than where you are. And as we begin to release the inner tension, we make space for clarity, for breath, for joy that arises not from achievement, but from being present in our own life. And from that space, you may begin to feel something unexpected kindness, not just for others, but for yourself. Because when the inner war softens, the heart opens. In the next part, we'll explore how to cultivate that inner kindness through compassion, forgiveness, and the Buddhist practice of loving awareness. So here we are, learning to soften the noise, to let go, to walk slowly, to come back to the present. But what do we do once the mind begins to settle? What rises up when the noise fades? Often, what remains isn't peace at first, but pain. Old regrets, harsh self-talk, that quiet but persistent inner voice that whispers, "You're not enough," or "You've wasted time," or "Why can't you be better?" This is where the Buddhist path takes a compassionate turn, because once we stop running, we come face to face with our own heart. And for many people, the heart carries wounds we've spent years avoiding. But Buddhism doesn't tell you to fight that pain. It teaches you to turn toward it with gentleness. There's a beautiful phrase used in Buddhist circles: hold your suffering like a mother holds her crying child. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine that the stress, the worry, the critical voice in your head isn't an enemy to be destroyed, but a small child inside you, scared and overwhelmed. What would you do? Would you yell at that child? Would you shame them? Or would you kneel down, open your arms, and say, "I'm here. You're not alone"? This is the practice of self-compassion. And for many people, it's the very thing they've been missing all their lives. In fact, studies in modern psychology now back this up, showing that people who practice self-compassion have lower levels of anxiety, better resilience, and stronger mental health. But Buddhism taught this centuries ago. The Buddha understood that true peace begins when we stop abandoning ourselves in moments of difficulty. Now, you might be wondering, how do I begin practicing this? You don't need fancy words or rituals, just a quiet space. Sit for a few minutes and breathe. Place your hand on your heart, and then speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love. You can say something as simple as, "This is hard, but I'm doing my best," or, "It's okay to feel overwhelmed. I am here for myself." It might feel awkward at first, but over time it becomes natural, and slowly that inner voice begins to shift from a critic to a companion. Let me tell you about Sarah, a woman in her early 40s who came to a weekend retreat I attended last year. She had been through a difficult divorce, was raising 2 kids, and working full-time. She said every night she lay in bed listing all the things she didn't do right that day. What she forgot, how she snapped at her son, how she failed to meet deadlines. She said, "I never rest. Even when I sit down, my thoughts scold me." During the retreat, she learned one simple practice instead of reviewing her mistakes. At night, she began ending each day by placing her hand on her chest and saying, "May I be gentle with myself." That's all, just that one phrase. She told us later it was the first time in years she'd gone to bed without tears. That is the power of loving awareness. And this doesn't just transform your relationship with yourself. It changes how you treat others. When you stop judging yourself so harshly, you begin to soften toward the people around you. You stop reacting with anger and begin responding with curiosity. You begin to realize that everyone is carrying something, and that we're not so different after all. This is the essence of Buddhist compassion. Not just loving the people who are easy to love, but holding space for those who are struggling, including ourselves. But here's the surprising thing. The more compassion you offer, the less stressed you become. Because instead of constantly scanning the world for threats or imperfections, you begin to notice beauty, kindness, and shared humanity. You breathe easier, your heart opens, and slowly, your days begin to feel less like a battle and more like a sacred unfolding. Now, I'd like to leave you with one final practice. It's called loving kindness meditation, or metta in Pali. You can do it anytime, anywhere. Just sit quietly, close your eyes if you'd like, and silently repeat these phrases. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I live with ease. Then think of someone you care about and offer the same wishes. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be kind to yourself. May you live with ease. And finally, if you're ready, think of someone difficult or someone you've struggled to forgive and offer those same wishes again. Not because they've earned it, but because your heart deserves peace. This practice over time rewires the mind. It helps you respond instead of react. It creates space between emotion and action, and it slowly shifts your inner landscape from stress to serenity. Remember this, dear friend. You don't have to be perfect to be at peace. You only have to be present. You don't have to fix everything to be worthy of rest. You only have to turn toward yourself with kindness. This moment right now can be the beginning of a different relationship with your mind, with your body, with your life. So, as we close this conversation, I invite you to carry this gentle awareness into your day. Breathe slowly. Speak kindly. And when the mind begins to race, as it always will, just come back to the breath. Come back home to yourself. And if this video has spoken to something inside you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it too. Leave a comment. What part touched you most? How do you manage your stress these days? I'd love to hear your story. And of course, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more conversations like this, gentle, real, and full of care. Until next time, may you walk in peace, may your days be light, and may you always know you are not alone.